think, Marge. All I need is a title.
So, this entire story starts with plans to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee, possibly the best Confederate general the South had during the U.S. Civil War. Of course, these plans were publicized, and a nationalist group called Unite the Right got a permit to set up a protest in Charlottesville to demonstrate against the taking down of the statue. According to CNN, Jason Kessler, who organized Saturday's Unite the Right rally, said he doesn't consider himself to be a white nationalist, but he said, quote, "We're going to start standing up for our history." The statue itself is symbolic of a lot of larger issues. The primary three issues are preserving history against this censorship and revisionism, this political correctness, he told CNN on Friday. The second issue is being allowed to advocate for your interests as a white person, just like any other groups are allowed to advocate for their interests politically. And finally, this is about free speech. We are simply trying to express ourselves and do a demonstration, and the local government has tried to shut us down, unquote. Once groups on the left heard about this, they organized a counter-protest against the Unite the Right demonstration. Things were going to get bad. Despite extra police being requested, the police presence at the scene was removed by Charlottesville's mayor, which has now caused considerable criticism of the mayor, given what happened during the demonstrations. What happened was what you could expect to happen when two groups vehemently opposed to each other meet face to face. A riot broke out, with scattered police attempting to keep both sides apart. At one point, one of the nationalists, Mr. James Alex Fields Jr., 20 of Maumee, Ohio, decided to escalate things, and he stole a vehicle. He then used it to smash into a crowd of people, killing one woman, 32-year-old Heather Heyer, and injuring another 19 people. This was a very violent incident, as video of the attack shows. According to CNN, video of the incident shows a gray Dodge Challenger driving quickly down a narrow side street lined with walking protesters. The sports car rams into the back of a silver convertible, which hits the van in front of it. Soon, the Dodge driver slams the car in reverse, going back up the street at a high rate of speed, dragging its front bumper. Several people chase the car. As the sports car retreats, a red and white athletic shoe falls off the bumper. Another video shows at least one person being thrown over the rear of the car onto the roof of the silver convertible, then sliding down onto the hood. President Trump issued a statement on Saturday that both the Unite the Right crowd and the leftist Antifa movement were to blame for the violence.
But we're closely following the terrible events unfolding in Charlottesville, Virginia. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America. What is vital now is a swift restoration of law and order and the protection of innocent lives. No citizen should ever fear for their safety and security in our society, and no child should ever be afraid to go outside and play.
However, the administration was soon buffeted by criticism that the president had not denounced the white supremacists strongly enough, and perhaps also that criticism of the leftists who showed up and threw at least some of the punches were criticized too much. So on Monday, August 14th, Trump issued another statement.
But based on the events that took place over the weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, I would like to provide the nation with an update on the ongoing federal response to the horrific attack and violence that was witnessed by everyone. I just met with FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into the deadly car attack that killed one innocent American and wounded 20 others. To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law, and we are equal under our Constitution.
While this statement was still correct, it angered people such as WISN's Jay Weber, who rightly complained that the Antifa thugs were basically getting away with their role in the violence. Yet Donald Trump was supposed to emphatically condemn the white supremacists.
I got some of that email yesterday. Why are you even pointing out the violent haters on the left who showed up to counter-protest? They were on the proper side. You got to condemn the racial hate. You got to condemn the racial hate. Well, I did. Everyone on the right has. I point out the ugly left because there are ugly haters as well on the left, and it needs to be pointed out. These Antifa groups that are spoiling for a fight, as they always do, they came looking to silence and block other people from exercising their constitutional rights. They came to be thugs. Whether it was Ann Coulter or Milo at Berkeley, or it's these racist pigs running around with Nazi flags in Charlottesville, I mean, they got the permits, they have the free speech right to protest. And we, the rest of us, have the right to hate them for it, to marginalize them for it, to ostracize them for it. But we don't have the right to block them from expressing their views peacefully by attacking them physically or starting riots and doing property damage. This is how this Antifa left works.
Let's step back from this a second. We, of course, send condolences to the family of Heather Hare, the victim of the attack. The violence on display from both sides in the Charlottesville attack is despicable and should be driven from the American discourse. However, when we stand back and look at the entire situation, we are reminded that even repugnant speech, such as that spouted by Unite the Right, is protected by the First Amendment, and speech from the leftist groups, such as the Antifa movement, is also protected. That right ends at the end of a fist. This message is not only being spread by people such as Jay Weber through the publishing of commentaries such as this one. There are aspiring YouTube content artists who are spreading the message that hatred and violence from both the right and the left is not acceptable in the American debate.
Well, here to get some reaction on the news of the day, we're going to bring in social media sensations, Diamond and Silk. Thank you for joining Fox and Friends Weekend. It's great to have you both.
Morning, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Well, of course, we need to get your thoughts on what happened yesterday in Charlottesville, how the president responded to it, and, of course, how we always see how his critics have responded to the president. What's your take?
Well, listen, first of all, the president cannot be one-sided. He has to look at everything that's going on. That's right. And when you look at all of these groups, these neo-Nazi groups, the KKK, which was created by the Democrats, all of these other groups, they were all spewing hate, and they were all creating violence. That's right. And all of them should be condemned and denounced. Period. It can't be one-sided. All of them was wrong for doing what they're doing. Listen, we are a country of diversity. That's right. If you don't want to live in this country with diversity, then you need to build yourself an island and go over there. That's right. But
my child's famous Facebook post was, "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." She paid attention. She made a lot of us pay attention. Oh my gosh, dinner with her, we knew was going to be an ordeal of listening and conversation and perhaps disagreement, but it was going to happen. And so my husband would say, okay, I'm going to go out in the car and play on my video game for a while. And we would sit and would grill. And she and I would talk, and I would listen. And we would negotiate, and I would listen. And we talked about all this stuff. We talked about politics. We talked about anything that caught her eye that she felt was fair, unfair. She'd talk about her feelings about the office and how things were going. I mean, she just talked. The girl loved to talk. And she was single, so there was nobody to listen at home, so Mama got a lot of it. And that was wonderful. You never think you're going to bury your child. You never think to take those pictures. They asked me for pictures for this, and I struggled. I had pictures from her childhood, but I had to go to Facebook to find pictures of my child because we were always together. I saw her a couple times a month at least, and we would text each other fairly often, and we would Facebook message at bedtime, "I love you. I love you. You doing okay? Yep, I love you." So I have no regrets on that part. Take pictures of the ones that you love because you don't know when they're not going to be there. But here's what I want to say to you today. This could be a storm in a teacup, and it could all be for nothing. I could have said, let's don't do this publicly. Let's have a small private funeral. But, you know, that's not who Heather was. Anybody who knew Heather said, yep, this is the way she had to go, big and large. Had to have the world involved because that's my child. She's just that way. Always has been, and she will continue to be. Because here's the message. Although Heather was a caring and compassionate person, so are a lot of you. A lot of you go that extra mile. And I think the reason that what happened to Heather has struck a chord is because we know that what she did is achievable. We don't all have to die. We don't all have to sacrifice our lives. They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her. So here's what I want to happen. You ask me, what can I do? So many caring people. pages of pages of pages of stuff I'm going through. I'm reading pages of pages of pages, how she's touching the world. I want this to spread. I don't want this to die. This is just the beginning of Heather's legacy. This is not the end of Heather's legacy. You need to find in your heart that small spark of accountability. What is there that I can do to make the world a better place? What injustice do I see and want to turn away? I don't really want to get involved in that. I don't want to speak up. They'll be annoyed with me. My boss might think less of me. I don't care. You poke that finger at yourself like Heather would have done, and you make it happen. You take that extra step. You find a way to make a difference in the world. My child had a high school education. My child was no saint. She was hard to raise because everything was a negotiation. Not kidding, but you know what? She was a firm believer in whatever she believed, and let's do that. Let's find that spark of conviction. Let's find in ourselves that action. Let's spread this. Let's have the uncomfortable dialogue. It ain't easy sitting down and saying, well, why are you upset? It ain't easy sitting down and going, yeah, well, I think this way, and I don't agree with you, but I'm going to respectfully listen to what you have to say. We're not going to sit around and shake hands and go kumbaya, and I'm sorry, it's not all about forgiveness. I know that that's not a popular trend. But the truth is, we are going to have our differences. We are going to be angry with each other. But let's channel that anger not into hate, not into violence, not into fear, but let's channel that difference, that anger, into righteous action. Right now, down the road, there's a blood drive going on in Heather's name. Right now, there are people who are here willing to listen to one another and talk to one another. Last night in New England, they had a peaceful rally in Heather's name to have some difficult dialogues. If you ever want to see what one of those dialogues looked like, look at her Facebook post. I'm telling you, they were rough sometimes, but they were dialogues, and the conversations have to happen. That's the only way we're going to carry Heather's spark through. So remember in your heart, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And I want you to pay attention, find what's wrong, don't ignore it, don't look the other way. You make a point to look at it and say to yourself, what can I do to make a difference? And that's how you're going to make my child's death worthwhile. I'd rather have my child, but by golly, if I got to give her up, we're going to make it count.
So at some point over the last couple months, the North Korean despot started threatening their neighbors again, firing off a total of 18 missiles during 12 tests so far in 2017. They combined this with verbal threats to fire a missile at the United States. This bluster has continued for much of the last 15 years, and relations between North Korea and the United States have never been good since the end of the Korean War in 1953. The Kim family has largely used propaganda about this war, which ended in an armistice and ceasefire, as a means to keep themselves in power. With economic assistance from both Russia and China, the North Koreans have been able to thumb their noses when threatened by sanctions sponsored by the United States. Most recently, however, the Trump administration responded to the NorKos threats with confrontation.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
This statement was followed up later, first by Secretary of Defense James Mad Dog Mattis, who said this.
Tonight, a dire warning from Defense Secretary James Mattis that North Korea should cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of its regime and the destruction of its people. War-like language. Mattis also telling the world North Korea's military will continue to be grossly overmatched by ours and would lose any arms race or conflict. A very different tone than Mattis's previous statements, emphasizing diplomacy and what war would mean for South Korea.
A similar message was relayed by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
We're not going to give someone a specific number of days or weeks. This is really about the spirit of these talks, and they can demonstrate they're ready to sit with a spirit of finding a way forward in these talks by no longer conducting these missile tests. So this is not give me 30 days and we're ready to talk. It's not quite that simple. So it is all about how we see their attitude towards approaching dialogue with us. And I think also it sends a strong message to two parties that we think can have some influence on how the North Koreans come to grips with the reality of what they're facing, that being China and Russia.
President Trump then doubled down on his earlier statement, and the United States led an effort in the United Nations to impose further sanctions on North Korea.
Mr. President, the North Koreans said yesterday that your statement on Tuesday was nonsense. That's the word that they used. Do you have any response to that?
Well, I don't think they mean that, and I think it's the first time they've heard it like they heard it. And frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So, if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough. And we're backed by 100% by our military. We're backed by everybody. And we're backed by many other leaders. And I noticed that many senators and others today came out very much in favor of what I said. But if anything, that statement may not be tough enough.
A lot of people in the country started feeling uneasy, thinking that Trump's rhetoric might lead to a nuclear war with the NorKos. This led conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh to respond.
Now, my next example here is McClatchy news. Lawmakers fear Trump's tough talk could trigger war. They've been lawmakers, members of Congress, the peons. They've been worried about Trump going off script for months, and now members of Congress are worried that his blunt and provocative warning to North Korea could lead to war. What does this mean? It means that wimpism has taken over the Washington establishment, that wussism and wimpism and pajama boyism has taken over. North Korea is a zit on the butt of a pig, and there's no reason to be afraid of it. Would we run around acting afraid of a zit on a pig? Mr. Limbaugh, they get nuclear weapons. Yeah, they can't hit the side of a barn yet, for crying out loud. They're all huff and puff, and they've been testing for months. It is well established. Well established now. Kim Jong-un has been launching test missiles for months, for years. He's been launching them in every direction, mostly into the ground. Each of them with a longer trajectory than the previous one. At what point is the launch we see not a test? At what point will one of this clown's tests be an actual attack? Say on Honolulu or Guam or San Diego, whatever. How would we know? What are we supposed to do? Just sit here and wait until the real one is airborne?
However, it seems as though the tough talk was having some effect. By this last Monday, the Communist Chinese had announced that they would cease buying NorKos exports of iron ore, iron, coal, and seafood starting on September 5th. They also stated that North Korea would not have Chinese backing if they started a war with the United States by firing a missile at Guam. On Monday, the state-run NorKos news agency issued a statement saying that Kim Jong-un had made a decision to delay a missile attack on Guam. This was probably the best decision that Kim Jong-un has made in a long while, and it led News Talk WISN's Dan O'Donnell to quip,
"It turns out that talking and acting tough is a great way to deal with would-be tough guy tin pot dictators."
A rather large number of people have either willingly left the Trump administration or they've been forced out. This includes the dissolving on August 16th of the White House Manufacturing Council, which was staffed by leaders in the manufacturing industries. A large number of the 28 members of this council vigorously disagreed with President Trump's comments following the August 12th violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. However, others have been fired to make room for people more loyal to the leadership, such as National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, who has had several people on the National Security Council removed in order to clear the way for people more loyal to him. The following is a list of people who've either been fired, resigned, or reassigned from the White House or the administration. Sally Yates, who was fired as acting attorney general. Travis Kalanick, who resigned off the advisory council. Mike Flynn, who resigned as National Security Advisor. Craig Deere, who was fired from the National Security Council. Katie Walsh, who was fired as the Deputy Chief of Staff. Angela Reed, who was fired as the White House Chief of Usher. James Comey, who was fired as the FBI Director. K.T. McFarland, who was reassigned from being the Deputy National Security Advisor. Michael Dubka, who resigned as the Director of Communications. Elon Musk, who resigned off the Advisory Council. Robert Iger, who resigned off the Advisory Council. Walter Schaub, who resigned as the Director of the Office of Government Ethics. Sean Spicer, who resigned as the White House Press Secretary. Michael Short, who resigned as the Assistant White House Press Secretary. Derek Harvey, who was fired from the National Security Council. Reince Priebus, who resigned as the White House Chief of Staff. Anthony Scaramucci, who was fired as the Director of Communications. Kevin Plank, who resigned from the Advisory Council. Richard Trumka, who resigned from the Advisory Council. Scott Paul, who resigned from the Advisory Council. Thea Lee, who resigned from the Advisory Council. Denise Morrison, who resigned from the Advisory Council. Ing Thulin, who had resigned from the Advisory Council. And at that point, the entire Advisory Council was dissolved. All of these moves have caused concern among some of President Trump's supporters. In an August 15th USA Today article, Trump loyalists said that they generally like the job that he's doing, but they want less bickering, fighting, and firings. These Trump supporters may not get their wish anytime soon, as the dissolution of the White House Manufacturing Council, along with rumors that White House advisor Steve Bannon may be shown the door by the end of this week, will only fuel the circus-like atmosphere surrounding the White House. With this chaos at the White House and with major legislation stalled in Congress, Politics City does not see anything substantive emerging on any major issues before October 1st.
July 2017, a congressional aide to Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, Imran Awan, was arrested trying to flee the country. Instead of joining her Democrat colleagues, Schultz waited till after the arrest to fire Awan. Imran Awan was later charged with bank fraud and is suspected of exposing sensitive government information. Rather than admitting to a scandal, Wasserman-Schultz blames the arrest on racial profiling and Islamophobia.
I believe that I did the right thing, and I would do it again.
Scandals, lies, and corruption, that's Debbie Wasserman-Schultz.
When somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do?
A big win for the Trump administration as one of the world's biggest manufacturers announces plans for a plant in the Badger State.
Some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back.
Taiwan-based Foxconn will build a $10 billion plant, creating LCD panels and 13,000 jobs.
He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that?
More than 1 million jobs since President Trump took office.
The U.S. economy has now added just over 1 million jobs under President Trump.
More than 1 million jobs have been added since President Trump took office.
I'll give you the background here, and I'm joined by Senator Fitzgerald. As I said, there is a story on JS Online today. Don't believe it's in the print edition of this morning's newspaper, but it is online, currently just developing, in which Senator Fitzgerald says that he right now does not have the votes to pass the Foxconn incentives. The state assembly is planning to vote on this as soon as next week, but Fitzgerald says over in the Senate they don't have the votes to do so, and he doesn't think that this thing is being given enough consideration, that they need to take more time, that Governor Walker and Assembly Speaker Voss have this on too much of a fast track, so forth and so on. I read this story and my jaw dropped. I didn't know that the Democrats had regained control of the state Senate, and I also didn't know that it was the role of the state legislature to screw up a deal that's been negotiated by the executive branch. With that as the backdrop, we'll now get this straight from the horse's mouth. State Senator Scott Fitzgerald is with us. Scott, as I said, I'm alarmed and borderline shocked that we don't have this thing immediately endorsed by every Republican member of the state Senate, and that you aren't trying to race your way into Madison to move forward on this.
The caucus tomorrow will be the first time that Secretary of DOA Scott Neitzel and Mark Hogan from WDC will be able to answer any questions from the caucus on the proposal at all. And, so when the reporters asked me today, where are the votes, my response is the same way I answered all those. I have not sat down with every senator in the Republican caucus and said, what is your position and where are you at and what are you looking for? What are the guarantees you're looking for going
forward? I hope none of them answer that question.
Yeah.
Well, I hope none of them answer that question. I hope they say that this looks like a good deal and I'm voting yes. But when you say that you don't have the votes, does that mean that some people right now intend to vote no?
No, I don't know that, Mark. I mean,
well, then how do you know you don't have the votes then?
I don't know the votes because I've never asked anybody in the caucus to raise their hand and say, are you voting for a Foxconn deal? That hasn't happened yet because we haven't even we just literally got some numbers from Fiscal Bureau yesterday, and Director Lane hasn't been exactly enthusiastic about his forecast on exactly what it would look like. So, I mean, I think we're expected to do the due diligence on this plan, and so far we don't have the numbers. I have no idea kind of where this is at or how it's going to be even framed up other than what you've probably read in the paper, what I've read in the paper so far. I mean, I literally just saw the ledge council items that...
Are you one of the votes that right now isn't in favor of this?
I don't know that, Mark. I don't know where the votes are. And
I'm asking you if you support the Foxconn deal supported by the administration.
I do. And I think...
Well, then let's vote for it. I frankly don't think we need to have every member of the state Senate be briefed for the next 16 weeks to figure out whether or not this kind of development, creating billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure development and creating a new industry in the state of Wisconsin needs to be done. I don't think it's the job of the state legislature to negotiate these deals. It's the job of the executive branch to do it. And if the state legislature doesn't like it, well, you all can vote no. But I don't want you to take 8 months like you all have taken on the state budget because you can't figure out what to do on transportation, this, that, or the other thing. I think I speak for a whole lot of people who are telling you that you people need to get off of your rear ends and pass this thing and understand that it's not the job of the legislature to negotiate economic development deals. You guys vote on all sorts of economic development programs and tax breaks and all this stuff. All of a sudden, it's going to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. We're looking at the numbers. We're doing this. We're doing that. We got some member of the state legislature saying he wants to take out road money from Milwaukee. I'm just telling you guys, you better not screw this up, and I don't know what more you need to see. We're giving them a bunch of tax breaks that amounts to a certain amount of money, and they're going to come in and create all these jobs. Now let's pass this thing before Foxconn decides that Wisconsin is still being run by Jim Doyle. This stops along the way, let's stop and talk to the senator from Green Bay. Let's stop and talk to the senator from Eau Claire. Let's stop and talk to the senator from Sheboygan or whomever else feels as though they have to if we're going to require every single member of the state legislature to give their endorsement of something before we move forward, we're never going to move forward on anything. This is a transformative deal for the state, but it also means that the legislature needs to start transforming itself and stop thinking that Bob Lang and his Madison Fiscal Bureau people can keep running around and throw out crapola numbers and screw this thing up. I don't want this thing to be screwed up, nor do the vast majority of Republican voters, at least in this part of the state. We don't want you guys to screw this up and micromanage this thing.
I haven't amended it at all. It's the Speaker who is offering amendments now that could have an effect.
So is this just you and Robin Voss going back and forth and being babies again, or what?
No, it's not. This is about doing the due diligence to make sure that the deal is what the administration says the deal is. And I don't
Scott Walker's lying about it. Come on.
That's what we do for a living. That is what we're supposed to be doing. No, I mean, every deal that I've done over the last 6 years as majority leader, this is exactly what we do. We take our time and make sure that we're doing something right. We've had great success with that MO, and I think we're going to continue to do that. So, you know, I'm not sure why taking another week to go through and meet with the
I'm fine with another week. In the newspaper, you're talking about not being able to do this by next month.
No, I'm not talking about. No, I mean, I feel really good about where we're at. I met with the governor this afternoon. We had a great conversation about Foxconn and having the ability to have the finance committee come and take up a number of those items. So, no, I feel pretty good.
Were you just being a diva when you said that you don't have the votes to pass this thing?
I can't say I have the votes until I've spoken to the senators and know exactly kind of where the support is. I've talked to Senator Schilling about getting votes from the other side of the aisle like we did on the arena deal last time. And, you know, we haven't ironed that out either.
There's a quote in the newspaper here, and, I'm criticizing you on the basis of these things, and if you didn't say this, that's fine, but I'm going to read this sentence here. Fitzgerald said he would need more time. Fitzgerald made his comments as GOP leaders in the Assembly moved to hold a vote on the measure in the House later this week. Fitzgerald said he would need more time than that and questioned why Walker and Foxconn Chairman Terry Goh had set a September 30th deadline for approving the deal. September 30th is about 7 weeks from now. Are you telling me that you guys can't get this figured out September 30th? Secondly, it's not just Scott Walker. Foxconn is setting this. If you start spitting at these people, who knows what their response is going to be?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I haven't even got a straight answer yet why there is a hard deadline on the MOU.
Because probably because Foxconn says that they want it. And if that's what Foxconn says, you guys better be okay with that.
No, I haven't had that confirmed by anybody within the administration or anywhere because I haven't had the time or the ability.
What's wrong with September 30th? That's 7 weeks. Some state legislatures only meet 7 weeks in an entire year to do everything that they have.
There's anything wrong with it. I didn't say there was anything wrong with the September 30th deadline.
Well, you did in the paper.
Sitting around doing nothing. I mean, obviously the Assembly is moving forward with an executive session.
Good for them.
Hitting the floor with the bill.
You're talking here about a company that has never built a major facility in the United States that is now planning to do so, has now just announced that they're planning to move forward with a facility in the state of Michigan. They are used to doing things one way. I don't think they're used to dealing with people like Scott Walker who got something done. I don't think that they're used to 99 dilettantes in the state assembly and 33 dilettantes in the state senate feeling as though they're the governor and can run around and change everything they feel like changing. I think you've got to play here by Foxconn's rules, or you guys are going to blow this. And, well, I have to read this, I have to read that, I have to read the other thing. No, you have to make sure that Foxconn comes. That's my position here, and I just have this fear, and I think that a lot of people are, that somehow we in Wisconsin are going to blow this because some tin horn member of the legislature wants to take 17 weeks to read an economic development deal that anybody who's concerned about the long-term interests of the state would vote for right now. I frankly think we could double the amount of tax incentives given to Foxconn, and that this would be a good deal. People talk about, well, we wouldn't get a return on investment until 2043, or it wouldn't be a break even. Do you know how many things we subsidize in Wisconsin that there is never going to be a single dollar that goes to us that this state allows? For heaven's sakes, we're acting as though that this is an investment that we have to make a profit on, rather than try to get jobs into this state that would transform the state. That's a very, very long question. My point is, I think that if you dink around with Foxconn, they might get back in the blower and tell Michigan, hey, we'll give you the whole thing. That's my concern, and I don't think that's an unreasonable concern. You know, and a lot of us are very frustrated with what's happened with the Republicans in Washington, unable to get anything done and unable to make a deal and dragging their feet around, and it was all because a bunch of egomaniacal senators and egomaniacal House members, I got to have it perfect, I got to have it perfect, I got to have it perfect. Now I'm getting all this, I have to have it perfect, I got to do my amendment, I got to let this guy read that, I got to go over to Bob Lang acting like he's the Pope or something or another and making him tell me that it's okay to do it. I'm troubled by this.
They're just trying to make sure that all ducks in a row so that we can take this thing up and get it through in a timely fashion.
In my opinion, timely would be Labor Day at the latest. Am I unreasonable in saying that?
I wouldn't commit to Labor Day, but I would certainly say we understand that it needs to get done. We also got a state budget that needs to get done.
Yeah, I know. You guys can't get anything done right now. I mean, you're almost making John McCain look like a go-getter in terms of being agreeable and all of that stuff. And I've given you a lot of slack here on the budget because, frankly, I think you guys in the Senate have made more sense than your colleagues over there in the Assembly. But I mean, it's one thing to drag out a state budget knowing that we don't have any real crisis because in Wisconsin the law calls for the old budget to remain in effect until you pass a new budget. This Foxconn thing, there is, I think, a desperate need to move fast and get it done and not foul it up. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Foxconn is out there off making contract land offers to individuals. They're buying options to buy up the land. They're proceeding as if this is something that's going to be done. They're moving with aggressive speed. They're a company that's used to getting things done, and I just don't think that they're used to the kind of hand-wringing process that I think held us back in Wisconsin for a long, long time, and I don't want us to be returning to here.
Listen, just the north-south freeway was added to the bill 2 weeks ago. And that certainly had an impact on the state budget as we continue to discuss how much bonding should be done and what type of revenue sources should be available for that bonding. I mean, all of a sudden you've got $250 million that literally was moved or plucked out of the state budget and moved over to the Foxconn bill. I mean, that's something that it doesn't seem significant, but when you're in the middle of trying to negotiate a state budget, that is significant. That's a big deal. It's a big deal on the Foxconn bill, and it's a big deal for the state budget as well. So the interaction between the two documents has become very, very intertwined and dramatic in the last couple of weeks as a result of that, which has been a setback for us versus something that has moved everything along a little bit quicker than we anticipated.
It's time for the Republicans in general to get their act together in Madison, and I hope that the inability to pass a budget does not become Chapter 2, an inability to pass the Foxconn deal. And like I say, I think that for a lot of your constituents, if that's the case, there will be hell to pay over this. You guys better get this done. That's all I'm saying. I get the things that you're all arguing about, and I think that those of us who watch the healthcare debate in Washington understand that there are differing points of view, but it is at some point you have to come and reach agreements here. And again, you can drag the budget out for 2 more months. I suppose I can live with this. I just can't live with a dragging out process that I think could get Foxconn to just in a huff say, screw you guys. And I think you can't rule out the notion that that might happen. They hold all the cards. You guys don't hold any of the cards. If you don't give them this deal that some members of the legislature are already wringing their hands over, trust me, Ohio's still out there, Michigan's still out there. There are other states that are going to give it to them. So let's just understand that.
I'm certainly aware of that. I totally understand that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for coming on. When a guest host comes on the station, though, for whatever reason, in my mind, it's a little different. I don't know why I think that, but I do. It just feels like it's different. And when a guest host comes on the station in an attempt to provide cover to a politician who was on my show the day before, I think I ought to comment on it because it's affecting the actual story itself. Senator Fitzgerald was on my program yesterday, and we had a very contentious discussion. I thought it was fair from his perspective and mine, but we had a contentious discussion, and I made it clear that I didn't appreciate any of the things that he was having to say, and I thought that he was given a bunch of excuses for not doing his job, and I also thought that he was hand-wringing on the Foxconn thing when virtually no Republican voters wanted to do it. Well, lo and behold, half a day passes. We have a fill-in host on the Jay Weber program. Jay, and I want to make it clear, Jay was not doing his show today. He was the fill-in host, Kittle. And here's Scott Fitzgerald right back on our radio station, getting a softball interview and being allowed to kind of clarify everything that has to be said. And then this same guy, Kittle, writes a story on his website on the internet portraying Senator Fitzgerald as some sort of hero. And I know why it was done. It was done in response to my program. And whether or not Kittle contacted Fitzgerald to do it, or Fitzgerald decided that he needed to come on WISN to respin the thing, it was done. So that's what Kittle wants to do if he wants to run his show and make his show, Radio Rhino, where you're going to be everything that the Madison media is going to be. And if you want to Madisonize, your career, because all these Madison people view things differently than actual Republicans, that's your prerogative. But if you're going to decide that you're going to try to pick a fight with me on the air here, and you're only a little guest host, and by the way, a guest host who occasionally fills in for me, trust me, I know what's going on here. So I've asked Kittle, and I sent an email over to this outfit that he works at. Did Fitzgerald ask to come on your show, or did you ask Fitzgerald to come on the show? Because I'm kind of interested in the answer to that. And again, Kittle has every right to take whatever stand he wants to take, just as I have every right to take whatever stand I want to take. But when it starts affecting the debate, I'm going to raise concerns about it.
Okay, so for my first interview in Casper, Wyoming, I'm talking to
James Bogart.
James Bogart, and what do you do for a living, sir?
I am sort of retired.
Okay.
So I do odd jobs or whatever I have to feel like, whatever's interesting.
Okay.
And in this case, I'm volunteering with the Veterans R&R Ranch, a nonprofit foundation trying to help veterans with PTSD and substance abuse problems.
That sounds awesome. Okay. Well, of course now, August 21st, I mean, the entire town's going nuts here about it.
Yep.
Having a big, huge solar eclipse. What do you think about the whole thing?
Well, actually, I saw a thing, I don't know, Science News or somewhere, during the last one down in Mexico or something, and they were collecting information, not looking at the eclipse. I mean, there's NASA's looking at that, all of my amateur astronomer friends are looking at that, but rather looking around for odd phenomenon on the ground, animals acting funny, people acting strange. Of course, how are you going to tell down here? But, you know, just odd things happening, just for the heck of it. So I'll be watching for the satanic cults and all that stuff.
Yeah, I kind of got a little bit of that going with some of the other stuff in the article. So.
Okay.
All right.
I figured there was all kinds of rumors going around, but I haven't really kept track of them.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Observe it. All right, so I'm here in Casper, Wyoming, and we're doing these video shorts here. And I'm here with
Jeremy Lucas.
All right, and what do you do, sir, for a living?
I'm a woodworker.
All right, and here's some of your work right here. And right there, and such. And there's a big board over there that I'll get in here in a second. All right, and so, of course, on August 21st, we're going to have this big, huge, moon thing blocking the sun in the sky. Everybody around here is going nuts about it. What do you think?
It's crazy. I'm here to try to make a little bit of money.
Gotcha. Well, with the Second Street Festival going on and stuff like that, you'll probably have a good opportunity.
Hope so.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Have fun. All right, we are still filming here in Casper, Wyoming, and I'm here with
Jessica Keith.
All right, and what do you do for a living, ma'am?
I hand paint wine and liquor bottles.
Okay, and this is some of your work right here. This is very awesome looking. All right, okay, so, and of course, we're having this big, huge, thing in the sky thing here on August 21st. And what do you think about the eclipse?
I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it's neat to have everyone come to our community to celebrate with us.
Okay, so you're a Casper native?
I am.
Or you're a resident? Okay. All right, thanks. Well, thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, so my name. Okay, anyway. Oh, sorry, why not do my name? Anyway, we're still filming here in Casper, Wyoming, on the approach of the big eclipse on the 21st, and I'm here with
George Castillo.
Okay,
We're
and
with Southwest Art.
Okay.
We have a booth. Come on down and see everything we have. I think this eclipse is a great deal for Casper, bringing in a lot of people, maybe a lot of revenue. It's a chance for everybody to get out and show their goods, see what's going on, and maybe bring the community together a little bit more.
Okay, and so you are a Casper resident or a Casper native?
Yes.
Oh, all right, cool.
Casper. So
all right.
Everything's handmade. We try to keep everything real. No plastic, no nothing like that. Try to keep everything to nature.
All right.
Mostly.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day. filming. Okay, so I'm currently filming from Games Gauntlet, our friendly local game store. And you, sir, who are you?
I'm Bradley Roth. I work here at Games Gauntlet.
Okay, so my question to you, Mr. Bradley, is on August 21st, we'll have this really cool eclipse. You may not be able to see the full eclipse from Laramie, but how enthused are you about the eclipse?
I would have to say that I'm really excited about it because I've always been a big fan of astronomy, and I think it'll be really cool to see such an extraordinary event like this.
Okay. Are you making any plans to go maybe see it from, like, say, Casper, Torrington, or something like that?
I am not, just because I have to work all throughout the weekend, and yeah, it wouldn't work out very well with traffic.
All right.
But I would love to if I could.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm here with. Okay. And what do you do for a living?
Well, I work in this call center, but I also play piano.
There you go.
Becoming a pianist.
There you go. Okay, and we're currently in Laramie, Wyoming, and so yeah. So my question for you is, what's your opinions on the upcoming August 21st eclipse?
I think the eclipse is very interesting. It doesn't occur that often, but myself, I'm not making any plans to go anywhere else to see it, because you can see 97% of it here in Laramie, so, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you much for your time and for your input here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. Bye. All right. So we're filming from the Wyoming Survey and Analysis Center in Laramie, Wyoming. And may I get your name, please?
Rowan Kelsey.
Okay. And what's your occupation? What do you do?
I'm a caller here at WISN.
Okay. All right. And so now we're going to have this eclipse on August 21st, next week, Monday. What do you think about it?
I think it's pretty cool. And I think it's cool that we're close to where the path is going to be going through so that we don't have to go too far to see it.
Cool. Now, speaking of that, are you going to stay here in Laramie and watch the partial eclipse, or are you going to try to get into the...
I'm going to be camping somewhere outside, right outside of Casper with some friends. Yeah, to see it.
All right. Okay, well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right, and then so we're filming here from the Wyoming Survey and Analysis Center in Laramie, Wyoming. And you are?
I'm Abigail George.
All right.
And I am a telephone interviewer here at WISAC.
All right. And okay, so we're having this big eclipse here on Monday, August 21st. What do you think about it?
I think it's really exciting. I think it's really cool that we're going to have so many people coming into Wyoming.
They're saying double the population.
Yeah, a lot of people are pretty hyped up that it's going to be double the population. So I think that'll be pretty exciting to have some. We already have quite a lot of tourism this time of year, but it's going to be even heightened. So I think that'll be fun.
Okay. Now, from Laramie, you're going to get like a partial eclipse. The total eclipse will be like places like Jackson, Riverton, Casper, Douglas, Guernsey, Torrington. Are you gonna view it here, or are you gonna try to get a better view?
I'm actually super jelly. I have a lot of family in Casper, so they're going to get the best view. But unfortunately, I am going to be working, so I will be here in Laramie just getting the partial view.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Yep, bye. Not all of the opinions on the impact of the eclipse on the United States particularly, or the world in general, have been positive. Code Seeker Jonathan and other religious zealots say that the eclipse will mark the start of the end time, with the emergence of Planet X in September, perhaps a rapture, and then the start of the Great Tribulation.